Hello, I'm Travis Wayne Goodsell. You most likely don't know me. I was born and raised Mormon in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, going on 50 years. And because of the way YouTube is designed, I have to give an introduction to each and every video in this series. So understand that there is a series to this, and that you're somewhere in the middle of it eventually. I read from Revelation chapter 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a male child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. The video series I'm going to be discussing is the identity of the man-child. You will recognize that the dragon who wants to murder this male child is also taken from Moses, where the Pharaoh murdered the Hebrew men who were born, and then the story of Moses comes out of that. You'll also recognize it from the story of Jesus, where Herod is visited by 3 wise men, and they say, "We saw the sign wonder in the heaven, and we've come to worship the man-child." It's similar to Moses. And then Herod then orders the execution of the male babies. And so this is the 3rd time, and there are others, talking about who this identity is. For the Jews, they have a list, like a checklist, for this Messiah, as they call him, which is the Hebrew for the Greek Christ, which in English is anointed. And the checklist must be completely filled in order for the Jews to say, okay, it looks like this is he who was prophesied. And so obviously the checklist comes from the prophecies. But this is also why the Jews do not accept Jesus from the gospel narratives as the Messiah, because Jesus did not get all the checks marked from the prophecies. And so we have John in his book of Revelation, which also is in the book of Mormon, talking about the last days. And we have, again, a sign for the latter days. And so this video series that I will be going over will be this person's identity. It is a man, as the Jews believe. That's part of their checklist, which is another reason why Jesus didn't qualify. And so, as Mormons, you may have heard of him spoken of, the one mighty and strong, from Doctrine and Covenants, section 85, verse 7. You may have heard of it through the Mormon rumor mill, that he will be the president of the church for the millennium, at the start of the millennium. You may recall section 130 of the Doctrine and Covenants, talking about a man who will lead the Mormons back to Zion, like Moses. These are all the same character, and we will go over them one by one to keep it as short as possible, since I'm already over 5 minutes in the introduction. And so please understand that this is a series. All of it needs to be factored in if you're going to have a checklist and mark it off. And yes, I will be revealing the identity, which, as I have read, the enemy also is looking for, so that they can have him murdered and assassinated, just like Joseph Smith. Let's begin. Alright, now we need to find out who we can eliminate as suspected candidates. And so when Romney ran for president, for example, there were many of you who believed Romney was going to be the fulfillment to save the Constitution. What you may or may not have understood is that you were claiming he was going to be the man-child of John's Revelation, the one mighty and strong of Doctrine and Covenants 85 verse 7, the Jewish Messiah, as understood by the Jews. And so we need to find out if it's Romney, or can we eliminate him from the list, and who else can we eliminate from the list as well? Because many of you are wondering, well, is it our current president, President Nelson? Is it Oaks, who's in line to take over when Nelson passes on? Because we've already done the video on the signs, and we've established that it's now. And so the current people living on earth right now in America, and we've established it's a Mormon, although I've got to do more to show for that. So we need to first see who we can eliminate. In Ezekiel chapter 17, we have a discussion. Well, he says, the Lord came unto Ezekiel, saying, Son of man. Notice the Lord is calling him Son of Man. He's not calling him Son of God. And so then go to Matthew 24, where Jesus is talking about the last days, and says the sign of the Son of Man. See what I'm talking about when the Jews say they're looking for a full human mortal? They're not looking for Jesus in the Gospels. And so on their checklist, they've checked off Jesus as a candidate. They've eliminated him as the candidate for this position. And so this is who we're looking for. But the Lord here is saying, put forth a riddle and speak a parable unto the house of Israel. And then he talks about, thus saith the Lord God, a great eagle with great wings, long-winged, full of feathers, which had diverse colors. America, the symbol is the eagle. Now, if we were to just look at this in and of itself, isolated from the whole context, and we disregard the first video I did about how to identify the location which we identified as America, then we can't make that assumptive leap. It's by establishing not only the date, but the location, that we can now say the great eagle, that's America. And so that's important to understand when we go through this. The eagle comes to Lebanon, that's northern Israel, and took the highest branch of the cedar. If you're unfamiliar with the cedars of Lebanon, they were mighty trees. Very, very tall, very, very strong, massive trees. Sort of like our oak trees in Oakland. And we'll get to that in another video when we identify the birthplace, because right here Ezekiel is giving the birthplace. But the thing I wanted to point out is that let's see, he also took the eagle, also moves him to another location, which again is another identity marker for who this person is. But in verse 6, so I'm leaving you hanging here. We're wanting to eliminate people. We're holding off on the identity first, because remember, the enemy is looking for this person. They want to destroy him. Like I read in the introduction, in Revelation chapter 12, the dragon is wanting to destroy this person. And so identifying him is putting him at great risk. But it's now. It's time. And so the signs have spoken. And so we need to eliminate who it isn't. In verse 6, and it grew. Now it's referring to the identity of this person. He grew and became a spreading vine. This is all part of the parable, part of the riddle that the Lord is speaking to Ezekiel. A spreading vine of low stature, whose branches turned toward him, and the roots thereof were under him, so it became a vine, and brought forth branches, and shot forth sprigs. And then it refers to it as a willow tree. Well, it is a willow tree. Oh, yeah. There it is. In the place where it was moved to, after its birthplace, it was set as a willow tree. And then it describes it in verse 6. And so, this is a person of low stature. He is plucked from the cedars of Lebanon, which is a high and holy ancestry. But he does not have any titles of nobility, authority, or prestige or popularity. He's low stature. You're not going to find him on Wikipedia, for example. And so, low stature. So Mitt Romney, is he low stature? No. So we're not looking for Mitt Romney. He's not going to do it. It's not Trump. If you think that the current president is the one to fulfill the prophecy, he's not low stature. And I can guarantee you he's not the one. What about the president of the church or any of the apostles who could succeed him were he to die? No, they're all of high stature in the church. and several of them are even high stature in America, if not elsewhere. Nelson, he was the medical doctor, saved President Kimball, and as a result was made an apostle. Oakes, Supreme Court Justice here in Utah. Holland, Harvard professor, well known at Harvard. So we're not seeing the apostles as low stature, so it's somebody else. Now this was a surprise to me when I connected all of this in my research with this chapter to identify who it is. We're looking for someone else, and we'll get to it, but I want to prepare you that I was shocked. I wasn't expecting it, and to be honest with you, I went into denial at first, looking for other justifications, other reasoning to explain it. And in the end, I couldn't, because the more I did research, the more I studied, the more I realized can't be that way. And so this is important in identifying this person. He's low stature. He's not well known to you. He's not in a position of authority, whether in government or in religion. And so it's somebody nobody expected. All right. So that's what we'll leave you with right now, is we've now eliminated those who it can't be. Everybody of high stature. But now we're looking for a Mormon. Well, I'll get more to that it's Mormon. But he's low of stature, and somebody you wouldn't expect. And I'll give you a hint. He's somebody that people in the church, in the world, would mock and make fun of, especially in our current social bullying, trolling environment that we have in the United States. And so, just like Samuel the Lamanite was attacked, expect this person also to be attacked. Just like I said, the dragon wants him dead, and he's already set it up for him to be attacked by the people, so that the dragon and his minions don't have to do it themselves. They get the regular common folk to do it. So just a forewarning for the rest of these videos. So like I said, the dragon wants him dead. He's looking for him, and we now have the internet where people can spy on us, searching our data through analytical programs and cookies that get put on our computer and on our hard drives. So he's looking, and so and so I sort of gave you a clue about where he's to be born. So I'm sure all of you are now searching your memory banks. Who do I know that was born in Oakland, California? And you're now searching Ezekiel 17, etc., etc. So we'll get to it. But yes, I already know the identity. I'm revealing the identity to you. And some of you are probably going, Like I said, we have to follow the checklist of prophecies. And the one that's not yet finished is the big one that the Jews disqualified Jesus for. And remember that. So until that is completed on the checklist, nobody is him until then. So, all right.